Well, hello. So this is my beginning of the year review, day 7 for my 7th graders. I'll put this up on the screen and show you what I did for Get More Math. And again, all of my beginning of the year reviews I'm just doing in Get More Math. I haven't actually started the 7th grade math yet as we look at it. But the 7th grade, day 7, I think starts with fractions. So you just log into Get More Math. I have my beginning of the year review, and this is day 7. There are 9 days total in my review, and that's just because that gets us through the first couple of weeks of school. And this one is all about adding fractions, converting fractions to percent. So there is a lot of skills that I assign for this one. Again, I want them totally inundated, and they only have to do one of each. So we're 16 points, but it's all fractions and forcing them to pay attention to those fractions. So let me assign that, and then I'll go over here to my student login, and we'll see here it all is. So the first one is converting this to a decimal. This is skill code 208010. The next one is converting a decimal to a reduced fraction, and it's skill code 208060. The next one is converting a fraction to a percent, and it's skill code 208033. The next one's converting the fraction to a decimal, 208011. Converting this to a percent, 208013. And I do teach them some different strategies to do this. The next one's convert the percent to a fraction, 208023. Convert this fraction to a decimal, and this is a condensed skill, so this has a couple of different skills in it, 208036 and 208101. Converting this percentage to a fraction, 208024. And now we're adding fractions with different denominators. This is skill code 204006. Subtracting fractions with different denominators, 204007. Again, adding fractions with different denominators, 204004. This one's subtracting fractions, 204005. This is adding fractions with the same denominator, but they will have to turn it into a mixed number, 204002. Subtracting fractions with the same denominator, 204003. Here's a condensed adding fractions with different denominators, 204020 and 204006, and then adding fractions with the same denominator, 204001. So some of them are easier than others. And again, it's just to get them to really look at all of this work. And so those are the ones for this video. And now I'll just share the video that I actually taught the students. And then remember, if you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe and like. Thank you. Well, hi. So today is beginning of the year review day 7. Now this one's going to be a tougher one because I will tell you that this is usually the one that kids struggle with because we're dealing with fractions. So I want to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll see what textbook page you need to be on for this one. So in the workbook, you need to be on page 28. Okay, so you're going to need to go to page 28, and then I went ahead and I moved some of these over here for us to work on. So you need to be on page 28, and we'll come over here. Okay, so the first one here, this is kind of important because it's vocabulary that I want to make sure you understand. I want you to know the difference between an improper fraction and a proper fraction. So let me move my video. So I need to make sure that you understand that. Now here's the thing. I put this in Get More Math. Get More Math will only accept one word. Okay, so it's only going to accept one word, and you have to spell it correctly. I want to make sure I type it in so you can see it. An improper fraction. The blank is greater than or equal to the denominator. And so the word here is numerator. Okay, you can't put anything else in there. If you put anything else in there, it's going to mark it wrong. And you can't say the numerator, it'll actually spell it, it'll actually mark it wrong, okay? So you have to have the word numerator. And then here, a proper fraction, the numerator is less than, and the word is denominator. And again, you have to spell these correctly. If you don't, Get More Math will mark it wrong, and you can't write any other word. The only word that it's going to accept is denominator. But again, it's so important that I want you to make sure that you understand that difference between improper fraction and proper fraction, that I put that in there for one of the things you have to do today. Now,
in order to evaluate fractions, so evaluate just means we're going to simplify if we can, okay? So we're going to solve them. And one of the things you have to do when you're adding or subtracting fractions, they must have common denominators. So I do want you to write those notes, okay? So to add or subtract fractions, the denominators must be the same, okay? And it's starting off where they are, and then we'll get to where they're harder and they're not. But that's one of the things that you need to do right away. You need to notice if you're adding or you're subtracting, the denominators must be the same. Now these are the same, so here's what you do. Once the denominators are the same, you just leave the denominator the same, and then you add or subtract like normal. Okay, so we're gonna so let's just go ahead and we'll write this was step number 1. And then step number 2, you just leave the denominator the same and add or subtract the numerator. Okay, and then let's just do a step number 3 just in case. Step number 3, make sure you have a proper fraction. Okay, so they don't want your answer to be improper. So so those are the 3 steps. So step number 1, you have to add or subtract fractions, the denominators must be the same. And we see they are the same here, so we're fine. Step number 2, leave the denominator the same and add or subtract the numerator. So we're going to add the numerator. 6 plus 1 is 7. The other thing we need to make sure also, and actually it doesn't matter step 3 or step 4, you can do it in either order, doesn't matter, but reduce if necessary. Okay, you're not allowed to have non-reduced fractions, so if they can be reduced, you must reduce them, okay? But if we take a look at this, I think this is fine. 7 and 9 have nothing in common, so they can't be reduced. And it's not improper because the numerator is not larger than the denominator. The next one. So you'll have some pretty easy ones like that. We're going to be subtracting, and the rule is step 1, to add or subtract fractions, the denominators must be the same, and these denominators are the same. So we can go ahead and add and subtract them. Step number 2, leave the denominator the same, so it's 7, so we're going to leave them 7s, and then add or subtract the numerator. 5 minus 1 is 4. Make sure you have a proper fraction. This is proper. The numerator is less than the denominator. And step 4, reduce if necessary. And we cannot reduce this, so 4/7 is the correct answer. Now, we're going to do the same thing. Now what we notice is the denominators are not the same, so we have to follow our step number 1. Okay, so now we're going to do the next problem, and step number 1, to add or subtract fractions, the denominators must be the same, and these are not the same, okay? So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to actually convert them, okay? So we're going to put these in here. We're going to put this in a different color, so we're going to go ahead and write that. So to convert fractions to the same denominator, you must multiply by 1. Okay. So I know this sounds kind of weird because you're like, well, wait a second, what do you mean I'm going to multiply by 1? Let's go ahead and take a look at this, okay? I have thirds and I have 27ths, and I'm going to have to multiply by 1. And so what I need to do is I need to write a series of 3s and 27s to see what they have in common. So I'm going to start with 3 because it's so much smaller than 27. And I get 3, and then if I add 3 more, I get 6. If you don't know your 3s, you want to put these series in the front of your book so that you have them ready for you to use, okay? 18, 3 more is 21, 3 more is 24, 3 more is 27. And I see that they both have 27 in common, right? I could convert this to 27s. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna actually do that. We're gonna convert it to 27s. And here's how we're gonna do that. We're gonna multiply by 1, right? Because when you multiply by 1, the number doesn't change. 5 times 1 is 5, 10 times 1 is 10, 100 times 1 is 100. We just need to change it to where we end up with 27 here on the bottom, okay? And so the way we're going to do that is the one we're going to choose. Let's see how many times we'd have to multiply 3 to get 27. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know it's 9 times. So if I multiply by 9/9, I know that 9/9 equals 1. Okay, so I need to make sure that you understand that. I know that 9/9 is equal to 1. And that's how we can do this. We are actually just multiplying by 1. That 1 is giving us 27s. So 3 times 9 is 27. For the numerator, 1 times 9 is 9. What that means is that 9/27 and 1/3 are exactly the same. If I had a piece of pie and I cut it into thirds, and then I had another piece of pie and I cut it into 27ths, and I took 9/27 and laid it right on top of those thirds, it would be exactly the same amount, okay? Now that I have my equal number, now I can do the math. And so then it just becomes 9/27, because now that we have the denominators the same, we just do the math. And again, we follow the same rule. We leave the denominator the same, which is now 27, and then we subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7. And then the last one, make sure you have a proper fraction. A proper fraction has a numerator smaller than a denominator, and we do. And then reduce if necessary, and 7 and 27 have nothing in common. So that is your final answer. Let's try another one. So this one says simplify, the answer cannot be improper. So again, let's go ahead and see what we can do. So I'm going to start with my 4s, and I'm going to do a series of 4s. Okay, so I'm going to do 4, and then 4 more is 8. And 4 more is 12. If you don't know your 4s, you need to put them in. The front of the book. So 20. So right now I still have nothing in common here, right? Because if I go with my 30s, I've got 30 and then 60. Okay, and I have 20 and I have 40, but I don't have 60. But I think I'll be able to get to 60. So I'm going to keep going. So I have 44 and 60, and so I do see that is going to be 60ths. What we're going to have to convert them to. And we're going to actually have to convert both of these fractions. So we'll start with the 30s first. So we have 30, and that was 13. And we have to multiply it. To convert fractions to the same denominator, we must multiply by 1. So we've got to figure out what 1 we would have to multiply by to get to 60. And all we have to do is just count. 1, 2. So the 1 we need is 2 halves. If we do that, we'll get to 60. 30 times 2 is 60. 13 times 2, well, 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 1 is 2. So it would be 26/60. Well, now we have to convert the fourth, okay? So we'll do that one. So we'll have 1/4 times, and we're going to have to multiply that by some 1 to get to 60. And then we'll count and see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have to multiply this by 15, 15. Then 4 times 15 is 60. 1 times 15 is 15. Now we have common denominators, so we can go ahead and we can subtract. So we have 26/60 minus 15/60. And again, the rule is once the denominators are the same, we're going to leave the denominator the same as it is. So that'll stay 60. And then we just subtract up here. So you have 26 minus 15. 6 minus 5 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. And we get 11/60. Then we have to make sure we have a proper fraction. A proper fraction, our numerator is smaller than our denominator, so we do. And then reduce if necessary. These don't have anything in common, so this becomes our answer. The next step, you're going to be taking notes again. So you want to make sure you get your notebook out. This is showing you how you're going to convert. So we're going to be taking some notes, and you're probably going to have to keep pausing to get all of these notes. But I want to make sure, because this is pretty critical too. So converting from a fraction to a decimal. And so I want to take some notes here, okay? So converting from a fraction to a decimal, all right? This is the steps, all right? So step number 1, you're going to divide. All right, so all you do is you just do the division. And so you just need to remember that a fraction is just a division bar, okay? So it looks like this. 80 divided by 100. Top to bottom, right to left as we do 80 divided by. This shows that this is being divided by this number out here. And then we just do the math. 100 goes into 8 0 times. 100 goes into 80 0 times. So we'll place a decimal so we can add a 0. This still gives us 80, but now it looks like 800, so we can do the division. 100 goes into 800 8 times. 8 times 100 is 800. 800 minus 800 is 0, so we are done. This answer is 0.8. And since it's less than 1, I want that 0 as a placeholder. Now, converting to a percent, though, is a little bit different because you have a few steps. So to convert a fraction to a percent. So convert a fraction to to a percent, you have a few different steps, okay? Step number 1, divide to get the decimal equivalent. That's the first step. And then after you do that, then step number 2, you're going to multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. So we're going to do that one next, all right? Here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide to get the decimal equivalent. So we're going to do 2 divided by 5, and 5 goes into 2 0 times, so we'll add a decimal so that we can add a 0. And 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0, so we are done. So here is our decimal equivalent. And then the next step is multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. So I'm going to show you how I multiply by 100. I go ahead and I offset my 100. So I line up the 1 underneath the 4, and my zeros are down here. And then I'm just going to drop my 0. That way I don't have rows of zeros. And then 1 times 4 is 4. When you are multiplying with decimals, you multiply like normal, and then you count to see how many numbers total are to the right of the decimal, and then you're going to move your decimal that many places to the left. So I have 1 here and none here. 1 plus 0 is 1. So I'm going to move my decimal 1 place. So it becomes 40, and then I add a percent sign, and it's 40%, okay? And so that's how you actually do those conversions. And okay, so we do have some more. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you have that pretty straight. We're going to go to the next ones. The next ones we're going to convert to a fraction. So we have a percent, and we're going to go to a fraction. So in order to do that, I need to make sure that you understand what percent actually means. So I want to go ahead and write this down. So we have percent, and what percent actually means? Percent, which looks like this, right? It actually means per 100. That's what it actually means, okay? So percent means per 100. That's why anything that's 100, we use the term cent. So there's 100 cents in a dollar because we broke it into 100 pieces. If we live 100 years, we've lived for a century. $100 bills are actually called C notes because, again, it starts with that letter C, and so that's why we call them C notes. But it just means per 100. So all we do is we're just going to convert this into a fraction. And all we do that is we just go 226 per. And so the fraction line just means per, and then 100. So it looks like this. Now what we have to do is we have to make sure that it's a proper fraction. Now proper fraction means that the numerator is smaller than the denominator. And I can see the numerator's not, it's larger. And so I want to know how many hundreds are in 226. Well, there's 2, right? So you have 2 whole, 2 hundreds. And then what's left is 26 100ths. And the way we just say that is 2 and 26 hundredths. But now I also need to make sure that I can reduce if I can. So I can see they're both even, so I know I can reduce. So I am going to reduce. It's going to become 2 and they're both even, so I can divide them by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And half of 100 is 50. So we're dividing it in 2. We're just taking half of it. And 13 and 50 have nothing in common, so this becomes our answer. Now we want to convert 2/4 to a percent. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the steps to go from a fraction to a percent. Step number 1 was divide to get the decimal. So we just do 2 divided by 4, and then 4 goes into 2 0 times. So we'll add a decimal, and we'll add a 0. And 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. So I know that we're done. 0.5 is the answer. Now that gives it a decimal. Now to go from a decimal to a percent, we multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. So again, I write my 1 underneath my 5 and my zeros here. I just drop my zeros. 5 times 1 is 5. Whenever you're multiplying with decimals, you always multiply like normal, and then when you're done, you're going to count how many numbers, how many digits in both numbers are to the right of the decimal, and then you'll move your decimal to the left that many places. I have 1 here, I have 0 here, so 1 plus 0 is 1. I'm going to move my decimal over 1 place, and the answer becomes 50, and then add a percent sign. And so hopefully you would notice right away that 2 out of 4 is 50%, right? Because 2 is half of 4, but that's just that reminder. So the answer is 50%. I think that's everything you guys have to do today, and it is. So that is your entire lesson. We'll be doing the odd numbers in class. So again, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll do the odd numbers. Okay, bye, you guys.
And then remember, if you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe and like. Thank you.